Hello, everyone. My name is Andy Nguyen, and this is the Millennial podcast, episode 4. And today we're going to be talking about getting fired from your job. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart because it happened to me pretty early in my career, and I felt like it's something I needed to share, and it's something that could really benefit others. For me, I've experienced a lot of hardships. I've had a lot of bad luck, and rather than just kind of dwell in the negativity, I believe that if I can share my hardships and people learn from them, it's no longer a burden on me and other people can benefit. So let's get to it. I'm 25 years old, about to turn 26 in 2 weeks. And in that time, I've worked at a few companies. I have had 2 internships before graduating, and I've worked at 3 companies since graduating full time. My first company, who shall not be named, but they were my dream job. I worked there for a year and a half, and the environment wasn't what I expected. I thought it was an environment I could thrive in, but it ended up being tougher than I imagined, and stress was building up. And one day, the HR manager and my project manager pulled me aside and they said, "Hey, we've decided to let you go," and they explained why. And of course, when something that shocking happens to you, I don't really remember what they said. I just remember my thoughts just getting louder and louder, and I started shaking. I didn't know how to react. I tried to keep my composure because that's something I knew that you should do. You shouldn't break down and just be completely emotional when something like that happens. So I tried. I ended up, to be honest, crying. But that's the first thing I want to talk about. An event like this is shocking. It's something that you cannot really prepare yourself for. It just happens, you experience it, and then you end up learning from it. But in that moment, do not repress your emotions. I mean, you can try to hold your composure when you're in public, but it is important to really feel these emotions and let your mind, heart, and body really process them naturally. So that first day, if they have decided to tell you to go home, pack up your things as calmly as possible, and when you get home, kind of just let yourself go, not let yourself go, but kind of experience, let yourself feel. And I feel like that was something that I did do right. I took the day and just let myself decompress. I didn't try to fix a situation right away. I didn't start coming up with a plan just yet. I just needed a moment. And that's okay. It's okay to have a moment to yourself. It's okay not to tell your significant other or your father or your mother or your best friends right away. Just be and exist. And as soon as that day is over, the next day is when everything is there are a few things you need to do. So next day, try to wake up at a reasonable time. But if you do need to sleep in a little bit, you can do that. It's okay. So one of the things you do need to do right away is you should need to sign up for insurance. In the state of California, I believe you need to have insurance coverage every month of the year, or else you get fined come tax time. So when you're let go of your job, your HR would have told you or given you some documentation. Of course, you probably didn't look at it, but one of those packets would be about COBRA. I know this is for the state of California. I don't know about other states, but there is interim health insurance that you should sign up for so that you can maintain your coverage if you are getting health insurance through your company. So do that. Sign up for it so you don't get fined later on. And also another packet they would have given you is unemployment insurance. Sign up for this right away. You may think that you're not qualified for unemployment insurance, but you may. I was let go not because of disciplinary reasons, so I did qualify. I personally did not sign up for it because I was afraid, I don't know, but I ended up finding a job within that month that I was let go. So I still had my coverage for health insurance and all that. So, well, I didn't have coverage, but I was able to start my next job and it was all fine and dandy, and I got my paycheck. So the unemployment insurance process does take a little time. It takes a few weeks, but that's why you need to start as soon as possible. You're eligible the day you are let go. And I don't expect anyone to just start doing paperwork as soon as they are let go. So I'm not gonna tell you like you should have a checklist and have it ready. You can take the day, and that is one of the first things you need to do. And let's say that your company did not tell you to leave right away. Maybe they gave you some time. In my scenario, because it wasn't a disciplinary action, it was kind of just a bad fit. They needed to restructure, something like that. they gave me 2 weeks. So they said, you can still show up to work, you can wrap up your projects, and in this time, you feel free to take any time you need to do interviews during the day or start applying and submitting a resume, the whole thing. I was really blessed to have this opportunity because during these 2 weeks, I was able to get a few interviews, and that's why I had a small gap in between jobs. So if you have 2 weeks, you're going to have to show up to work every day, correct? It's going to be hard. It was hard for me, and I don't blame you if you think it's kind of awkward and kind of anxiety inducing. But be honest with people. I highly suggest being honest with your direct teammates, at least the people you see and talk to every day, the people that you work with every day. Your project manager was probably informed about this action, so you don't need to have a second talk with him or her. But be honest with the people you see every day. It will be a relief to be honest with them and tell them that, hey, I'm being let go because of so-and-so, or however you feel. You can be honest with the people you spend the most time with, but you don't have to be. You don't have to tell anyone anything. You can just say like you decided to move on, or you can just, on the last day, just tell them then. It is your choice. No, there's nothing you have to do. It's a personal choice, and do whatever induces the least anxiety for you. What I did, my choice was to tell everyone at the company. I sent out an email to my division and said, I have decided I'm leaving, and I left it pretty vague. So I just said I was leaving, so they were informed. But this was important to me because when people came over to ask me about it, I wanted to have the opportunity to ask them if they had any connections for opportunities for me. So in sending out that email, of course, people are going to come by and ask for details. And there were some managers that came by, and so I decided myself who I wanted to tell the truth to. There were some people I maybe didn't like or didn't trust to have the truth about the situation. I just told them, hey, I decided to leave. I don't have anything lined up yet, but I just wanted the time to focus on finding a better opportunity or a better place to work for myself. And that's a perfectly fine answer. But for those that I knew or I thought could help me or I trusted, I told them the truth and said, hey, I was let go. I don't have any other opportunities coming up. Is there anything or anyone you know that can help me, or any direction or leads so I can get back on my feet as soon as possible? Some people may not have any opportunities, but most people, if you ask, they're willing to help. It's kind of a rough world out there considering you just got fired, but at the same time, people are people. They don't want people to be unhappy. They don't want people to be unemployed. Sometimes decisions are made for purely business, because your workplace is a business. They make decisions based off of money, and sometimes money will trump any kind of personal feelings you may be liked as a person, but in terms of finances and money and all that, it may not work out. So if there's an exit interview, this is usually with the HR manager or someone in HR. Do not use this opportunity to air out all of your concerns and your frustrations with your job. It is not the time for that. It is just a formality, so this is the time you take to kind of explain how you felt. They're going to ask if there's any criticism or anything any information that you have or any experience that you had that they can use to improve the experience of other people at the company. You decide what you want to say, but it's important not to burn any bridges. Do not start bad-mouthing your project manager or the people who let you go. It is not the time for that. It is really never the time to badmouth anyone anywhere. The world is a small place, especially in my industry of civil engineering. I don't want to speak negatively about people if I have the choice. So it's a formality, you go through the whole thing, but you do have to remember that the HR manager is there to serve the company. So don't say anything to incriminate yourself or say anything too negative, because it's going to go back to the company. And they do say everything is confidential, but like I said, I'm not blaming or accusing anyone of anything, but they are well within their right, I believe, to just kind of share the information or share, without using your name, what they heard, so they can bring that information back to the company and improve the workplace. So be careful about what you say. When I was fired, after the exit interview process, I actually took everyone out to lunch. I didn't want people to remember me just for that last email I wrote where I decided I'm going to look for a new opportunity. or I didn't want to see them in my last 2 weeks as kind of negative. I wanted them to remember me on a good note. So I took everyone out in my division out to lunch, one of our favorite restaurants, and I just used this opportunity to kind of just say my farewells to all the people that I've worked with over the years and to just leave on a good note. In doing this, the higher-ups actually commented on how gracious I was and how positive I was being. Of course, they knew that I was let go, but they really respected me and my decision to take everyone out rather than to be so negative about the whole situation. And that actually made a big difference. In terms of how to pick yourself back up after getting fired, it's really important to maintain a routine. Just like how when you're employed, you wake up every day at a certain time, you get dressed, you get out of bed, you go to work, you take your lunch, you finish work, and then you have your personal time. I highly recommend keeping this routine. So in the morning, wake up, get dressed into proper clothes, and start your job search. This will put you in the right mindset and will keep you from kind of digging yourself into a hole of like negativity, and it'll help you stay in tip-top shape so you're in a better mood and you're more productive, so you can apply for jobs, go to interviews, and keep moving along and moving on with your life. You can take some time for yourself, but don't just stop there. Life doesn't end when you get fired, and I'm sure you'll be pleasantly surprised that it's easier to find a job after you've had one, whether or not you got fired. So having a job on your resume really helps in the process of getting interviews, and you'll actually have experience to talk about. So there's at least that. And in terms of telling your friends and family, this is all a personal decision. Of course, I decided to wait a little bit, but I did end up telling my closest friends so they can provide me some support, because in this time, it's really important to have emotional support from your friends and your family just to help you get through the days. There are some days you'll be able to be super productive. You'll get up and you're like ready to go to look up job listings, update your resume, your LinkedIn, send out resumes and do interviews. But sometimes you may just feel down in the dumps, and that's okay. But having that support group will help in that process. And if you don't pick yourself up right away, and if you're not able to find a job right away, take this time to just think of it as a blessing in disguise. Just take time to dig deep and reflect on your experience at your last company. Reflect on your experiences so far in your life and think about what you really want to do. At this point, you are able to take a sidestep or change directions if you want to. So if you were extremely unhappy where you were, maybe you want to try something different. Or maybe there's something you've always wanted to spend some time doing, maybe learning how to draw, learn guitar, or a new language, or study for licensing exams, anything like that. Take the time to try something different, change it up, because you have the time to explore. Still be diligent in your job search, but you can't really submit applications for 8 hours a day. So take some of that time and really explore and learn more about yourself so you're more prepared to hit the ground running when you start your next job. In terms of your resume, so with your resume, you just put the end date and you just submit it as is. Try to make sure it's up to date with your most recent experience and just send it out. The difficult part is when you get to the interview. So when you get to an interview after you've been submitting your applications and you had your phone call, you're going to talk about yourself as usual, but at some point they will ask about your prior employment. It's all going to depend on how your HR is going to handle this. For me, I was lucky that my last HR said that they told me that they're going to be very neutral when they're asked about my employment. They're not going to say anything negative, and it's going to be up to me to explain myself. I was very blessed in that scenario. So in terms of explaining myself, I just told the possible employer that it was just a bad fit between me and the company. The company culture wasn't what I expected. You really want to be neutral and not badmouth your prior company. You don't want to start talking your head off about how your project manager sucked and how he was a jerk, this and that, or your coworkers were a jerk. You know, it may be true, but it's not the time. Like I said, it's never the time to really air those frustrations. Just be level-headed and explain that it wasn't a good fit, and I decided to go look for other opportunities. It's for me, it's a little bit of a fib, but it's true. I personally did consider leaving the company due to the environment and how I was feeling day to day. It just so happened that the decision was made for me. But yeah, that is my experience in getting fired from my first job, my dream job, so to say. But I'm here to tell you that it may happen, but it's not the end of the world. Even though it feels like the end of the world, it feels like you've let your family down. For me, it felt like I let my dad down. But it's totally okay. Just like bad things happen in life, but we will learn from them, we will overcome them, and perhaps they were meant to happen. Or maybe we're in a bad environment and we weren't the most happy, or we could have been happier somewhere else, or perhaps the world is telling us to take a different routes. Even if it was our fault, it's not the end of the world. We all make mistakes, but we're human, we're amazing at adaptation, so we can learn from these experiences and move on to bigger and better things. It's been a few years since I was let go from my job. I've had very interesting experiences at different places, but I'm always adapting, I'm always learning, I'm always trying to grow. And although I didn't stay at my first job for the last 4 years, it's okay. The things I've learned going from different companies are very valuable, and I try to bring and offer more when I come to the table, and just do my best every single day, and I try to be a good person. And if you follow those kind of simple mantras, like just work hard, be a positive person, even if you have missteps here and there, you will end up in a better place. That sounds kind of weird. You'll end up moving and growing and improving always. Thank you for listening. That was my podcast on getting fired from my first job. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you experienced something, because this is something very personal to me, and it's hard to share things like this, but I believe that sharing is the best thing that I can do in terms of my hardships, so I can help others. Thank you for listening to Millennial Up. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you come back next week for another episode. I will see you in the next one.